Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm so excited about this episode for Feed Your Soul Mixtape. This is the International Women's Day special episode, updating our views on womanhood. So I'm very excited to talk about this theme that touches my heart very dearly, and also honoring all you beautiful women that are joining me here today. I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. And hopefully, I can honor all of you. I'm honoring you here, honoring your hearts, mind, body, and soul. So, all feelings are welcome. I want you to feel like your voices are being honored and you're welcome to share anything from a place of vulnerability. That's the whole idea of Feed Your Soul mixtape, to create this space. So, before we jump in, I just want to invite you to close your eyes and take one deep breath with me. And just arrive in this moment. Anything that happened before this space, you just leave it behind. Anything that you have to do after this space that we're creating here, just don't bring it here. Just be present in the here and now. And take one more deep breath. And just feel yourself arriving, creating this beautiful space of women. And welcoming all your feelings in this safe space of sharing. And take one more deep breath just to arrive and be present. And imagine a bright light just coming through your head and expanding through your whole body. Open up your heart, going down your spine, your solar plexus, all the way down to your feet. And just feel this beautiful light just expanding through your whole body and extending with love and compassion to all the women who are joining us here today and who are listening, and everyone who's out there listening, who's joining us here in spirit. Just with this beautiful divine light guiding us to create a space for our highest and greatest good of beautiful communication and sharing. Whenever you're ready to fully arrive in this space, just take one more deep breath and open your eyes in your own time, whenever you feel ready. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me here today. So just to start, I really appreciate it. I just want to go around the room, and if you can do a quick intro, just say who you are, what you do, and what's most alive for you today, or if you want to share the best moment that you've had this week, anything you want to share from your week. And I'm going to start, I'm going to go right here to my right. I'm going to start with Karen Mefford.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. And let's see, my name is Karen. We've already established that. I am a conscious leadership strategist. I help businesses develop their business strategy using the conscious leadership framework and empower their personal development. So that's what I do professionally. I'm a mom of two amazing adult women. And I feel what makes me feel most alive today is a lot of gratitude for a functioning body. So I feel really, really grateful for that, and enjoy moving my body out in nature and other places. But I really feel alive today, aware around that. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here connecting with all of you amazing, powerful women that I know are that without even one word uttered.
Thank you, Karen. And Deb, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Deb from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where it got into the mid 50s today. It was wonderful, sunny. I am a leader in the product and project management space, looking to integrate the best practices for product and project management with mindful and conscious business practices. I have one son, he's 30 and pretty awesome. And feeling today what I'm grateful for, inner peace. Just I feel very peaceful right now, and that's such a wonderful experience.
And Malia Kakia, did I say correctly your name?
You're so close, Julia. It's Malia Kikia.
Malia Kakia.
Yes. Aloha, everyone. I use she, her pronouns. And today I'm a native Hawaiian, but I'm living in Western Massachusetts on Mohican and Wabanaki Confederacy land. I want to honor those people, those ancestral people of this land that I live on, as well as my own ancestors. I am the co-founder of Before the Other Creations, where I specialize in teaching play and vulnerability to adults and adolescents throughout the United States and internationally, and now online, thanks to COVID. Today, I'm grateful to be here and to meet a bunch of new faces and get to talk about being a woman, because I love being a woman. So mahalo, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And Dawn, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Dawn Alden, and I am a feminist activist who uses various different mediums to express that. I've spent a lot of time in creating performance art. Right now, I am working with a friend, and we are creating through a podcast and other performance pieces, mindfulness of the traditions of matriarchy in the world, and looking at the structures of traditional matriarchy as a guide to creating a more egalitarian, eco-friendly, mindful world after the plague passes.
There is a path to get at least some children back to schools in all districts.
Thank you.
In potentially hybrid
models. I'm
models.
hearing some interference. If we can either mute yourselves, if there is like music in the background, I think.
Instead of taking a leading role.
It sounds like a radio
Cheryl?
television. Yeah.
Cheryl, do you mind muting yourself?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And actually, since I mentioned you, welcome. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay.
Can you go next?
All right. So my name is Cheryl Quintana Leader. I write, direct, and produce educational media in English and Spanish for the Latino community. I've brought along Wonder Woman here because she was the original Latina. She was the original Latina on television who showed us all of her powerful and amazing ways of helping fight off the bad in our world. So
it's so great. I love that she's on your shoulder, Cheryl. That's amazing.
And I apologize for being late, by the way. I apologize.
It's okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes.
Okay.
Everything is welcome. It's all part of life.
Yes.
And Lisa, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi. See you, Julia, and everybody else. Welcome. Hi. I'm Lisa Sowiki. I'm a certified life coach And my greatest work has been to empower women and bring them up. And believe me, I've done a lot of that from personal experience. And so it is so empowering to me to be able to do that for somebody else. And I just love the sisterhood of women so much. My girlfriends are sacred to me. And I don't know. I'm the kind of person that has never wanted to be anything but a woman. You know, I never had that kind of male envy thing. You know, I just so great, you know, be goddesses. So I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so inspiring. Just seeing all of your faces, I just want to put it out there. I'm almost emotional. I'm not almost emotional. I'm emotional just to like have all this energy in the same room, you know? It's beautiful. Lena, welcome. Hi. Can you introduce yourself?
Yay! I'm so glad to be here. Nice to see you and all this beautiful community, all these beautiful faces. I'm Lena. I live in New York, upstate New York, and I'm just being exhausted actually because I've been teaching a mini retreat, women's retreat too. And I resonate with Lisa just by being, you know, empowering another woman with whatever makes me happy too from my own experience. So today was a very lovely mini one-to-one retreat, and I'm feeling like floating, like, I mean, not just physically, so happy, so grateful for being able to do this, not for a group, but for an individual woman, which is like, you know, when you help one, you help all of us. Through yoga, through dance, through the body, through the breath. And that was it. That was it today. That was my day. And I'm so glad to be here. So happy. Nice to meeting everyone here. Everybody's so glowy. Pink hair, Melanie, and blue hair. Oh, so pretty.
Thank you. Thank you, Lena.
Yeah.
And I've
Thank
taken
you.
yoga dance with Lena. She's very beautiful at honoring our divine feminine and goddesses. So
Yeah.
very inspiring as well. Petra, are you there? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Petra. I'm from California. I'm a yoga teacher, an artist, and I'm just happy to be here and here. I love being a woman. I believe that women in the world, particularly in the world, is now needs to be definitely together. Teachers.
Petra, we can barely hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to hear, can you speak a little bit louder or turn up the volume? It's hard to hear what you're saying, and I do want to hear what you're saying.
Can you hear better? Is this better? Yeah. Well, I believe
yeah, that's better.
Together as a culture, I found throughout, I'm a Buddhist. I also do a lot of meditation and spiritual practices. And my read from the condition of womanhood, of women out there, is that really there is a need for women of all races, kind, color, cultures to come more together. There's a great imbalance out there in society as is right now, and this women coming together is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree. That's why it's so beautiful to have a space like this to unite, you know, welcoming everyone, every woman. Cynthia, can you go next? Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Orsini Dahl. I am a yoga therapy teacher for inflexible athletes, and I'm also an actor and a model. Yoga and therapy are much more my focus than anything. It's really important for women to step forward into the athletic world and truly show what their capabilities are. We've always followed men and what men feel are best in terms of our fitness, our mental wellness. And I also teach mindfulness. I teach meditation and breathing. And I've been working with some male athletes on the female perspective. And it's been interesting. It's been very interesting and really excited to be here and see all these different women. This is great. Thank you.
So cool.
Catherine. Thank you, Cynthia. Catherine, can you go next? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, just a second. Kind of have to raise myself up here to be in the frame. I'm an artist. I'm a visual artist. I'm a sculptor. I work in clay and mixed media. And I'm very lucky today to find all of you people, all of you nice ladies, through Lori Lamson, who I met years ago. And to date has been one of the very few people who have visited me and seen slides of my work. I mean, really not more than one hand, 5 people have been to my studio and visited me. And yeah, it's not that I'm antisocial. I just kind of need that quiet, need that peaceful feeling, which I'm still getting here. I'm not unhappy with Zoom or the computer. It's a God shot for me. The energy level is just right for me. It insulates me, and it's not overpowering. I was raised at the Chicago Art and Street Museum School from the age of 10, and I just am kind of like a quiet museum atmosphere in my life. And it's really nice to meet all of you online. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Ashley, can you go next? Introduce yourself.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
Let's start that over again. Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm a journalist. I'm based in LA. Up until the pandemic, I specialized in covering red carpet events. Julia also did some of that. And now I write stories on various different topics: beauty, health, wellness, news. And today, actually it rained today for the first time in a while, and it was really refreshing. And then I ended up going for a hike, which I kind of pushed myself to do. Usually if there's like a single drop of rain, everyone just stays home in LA. But it was really beautiful. I'm glad I did it. It felt really like a surge of energy and just being out there kind of in the elements. It wasn't raining, but it was windy and the clouds were, just going by really quickly. It was beautiful. So I have to say that's the highlight of my day so far, aside from meeting all of you. So thanks.
Oh no, it looks like
Thank
Julia's
you.
frozen.
Yeah,
Yes,
Julia's
frozen.
This is an authentic Zoom. We've had we can hear you.
We've had
You're frozen.
The phrases of 2020.
We're keeping it real.
Yeah, right.
We're trying to keep it as organic and authentic as possible. This has all been rehearsed.
Exactly.
Melanie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. I'm Melanie Sharp. I got a birthday in a couple weeks. So I'm starting to get a little anxiety because I'm going to be 59, and this is my second pandemic birthday in quarantine because everything shut down right before my last one. It's hard to believe that it's been a year.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a
Good to believe.
what do you call it? A fish floating around. This is a bird without a net. You know, flying without a net. It's been crazy. I worked my way up to I was a professional athlete, figure skater. I got injured. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Ended up falling into the entertainment business on a fluke. Psychic gave me a card, pointed, said, "Somebody's gonna give you a business card. It's gonna point you in the right direction." It's exactly what happened.
Wow.
I've had a couple of little triggers this week with some stuff with Twitter because I grew up in like not grew up, but in the workforce in the 80s, and it was very male dominated, and there was a lot of sexual harassment and just putting me down. And you know, where were all you ladies back then and when I needed you and I had no voice? You know, it's just been a crazy life. But I ended up opening my own management company in 97. About 5 years ago, my body started breaking down. I needed my hips replaced, my spine fused, my neck fused, and then my fusion in my neck fell. I had it done again. Then I had a mental health breakdown due to all of that, and I couldn't work, self-employed, couldn't get disability. It was such a nightmare. So I'm kind of like, you know, this last year has just been a journey of trying to fix some of these, really dig into my issues with food, issues with my body, all this stuff that came through ice skating that I thought I fixed through my yoga journey of 20 years that have kind of all like just had a lot of stuff that have, you know, like, no, I never really addressed that. So I've spent the last year just really digging into myself and trying to figure out what I want to do in Act 3, because my passion for working for free for, you know, nothing against actors, I love them, you know, but putting myself at the back of the bus and working for free is not fulfilling anymore. Just the whole end of the business is changed. It's not fulfilling anymore. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do. So it's been a tough year, and I just lost one of my kitties a month ago, and that's been really weighing heavy on my mind. So I have now 7 inside and 6 outside that are trapped new to return. Because I had 2 cats living in my yard that were babies all the time, and I couldn't deal with kittens anymore. So I had a friend with traps and went out and took care of all that. And, you know, but now 5 of them live on my property, 5 or 6. 5 regulars. 1 passed away not last year sometime, so I keep thinking there's 6 out there. But there's stragglers and possums and raccoons. I'm like the St. Francis of Willowcrest Avenue. The animals love me. So that's about it. I met Lori through my husband and took an amazing writing class with her in January. So, you know, just trying to check out different things that I want to explore. But all of you ladies just sound amazing. So I'm happy to be here. I'm glad I checked my email when I woke up today.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Melanie. And you touched on so many things too, that there's so much to talk about. I mean, from, you know, Zoom struggles, like Zoom fatigue. I think everyone, I mean, I can speak for myself, speaking from firsthand experience. I mean, I've had so many ups and downs in this last year. And I actually remember it's been exactly a year, because I actually remember the last week before the lockdown that I was on a cruise and we were celebrating International Women's Day. Mm-hmm. So the last thing that happened, the last event that happened, it was a huge event that we had to, you know, recognize all the women who are on board and the women who are captains and who are, you know, at the front of their, you know, profession, and like highlighting women like overachievers, I guess. But it was like a highlighting women for International Women's Day. And I had no idea what was coming. It was, you know, exactly a year ago. I mean, we're reaching the 1-year mark, and I had no idea, first of all, that this was going to be for a year. When we're at sea, it was actually, I thought it was going to be for 1 week because they said, oh, we're not going to have a cruise this week because of quarantine. And I thought, oh, how long can quarantine last? A week. Right? Like, I honestly, like, I was thinking 7 days. Like in my, back then, like that was literally what went through my head. I was like, oh, okay, so 7 days, we won't do anything for 7 days, and then we'll come back, next week. And then it was like, no, it's 14 days minimum. And then they said, no, it's 30 days. And it's just like so surreal that it's been a full year and we're still in quarantine. It feels like a sci-fi movie. So
that's why we're a dream you can't wake up from, like a nightmare I cannot wake up from. I miss people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I miss hugs. I miss my yoga community. I just miss. I get excited. My friend makes a pain bomb, and I get excited when I have to go pick it up over her fence, and I get to talk to her for 2 minutes in person. At 6 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can all relate to that feeling of loss, of real personal interactions and connections. When they did the lockdown for 2 weeks, that was the time it was going to be. It was 2 weeks. And my brother-in-law lives in Hong Kong. And he said, yeah, you guys are where we were 2 months ago. And so I had an inkling when they said 2 weeks that it was going to be longer based on his position in the world. And they had already been really in the thrust of it. And, but I never, of course, never imagined that we would be anniversarying it and honestly that it would permanently change. Like, I think it's just, we're permanently changing something that the world is flipping on its axis. And there's some lessons, of course, that we have needed to learn, and maybe hopefully some more people are learning. But I do think, the thing I miss most, I'm impressed that Zoom can connect people as well as it has. I am surprised at that. But I do miss just touch, right? Just like the ability to reach out, and there's so many people suffering that normally, you might have gone and given a hug and just done 10 minutes of, just encouragement in that way. And we've had to dig deeper into ourselves for those resources, I think. But conversely, I'm very uplifted by that we have so much within ourselves that I think I maybe didn't totally, I don't think I fully realized just how much resource there is within ourselves to give healing, or to take power back, or to be an advocate and a champion for others. And, so it's not a monolith. That's right. That's for sure. But it's tiring. I think we're all tired, right?
Exhausted.
Yes.
Exhausted.
It is exhausting.
Tired. I know. Yeah. It's tired.
Frustrated and aggravated.
Yes. And skin hunger. Like you said, Karen, so much skin hunger,
And anxiety, I don't know if it's just from not being able to go to a movie or have any freedom or get away from my husband when he pisses me off, which is 90% of the time.
That never happens.
It's crazy.
I know. I have carried around, my parents are 80 and I have a dad with Parkinson's, and I have just carried around this anxiety of just our seniors and people who don't have support, and it's so many. The numbers are so high of people that we've lost, souls lost. And they recently got the vaccine, which was amazing. And I didn't realize how much tension it had been that I was carrying about not being able to protect them until they got that vaccine. And I literally, it just crumbled. Like, I was so emotional when they both got their shot, and so grateful to healthcare workers and just the people that have been keeping the parts of the ship afloat,
Everything goes.
you know, the whole
Yeah.
time. And so, you know, it's such a human, like, it's just mind blowing that we're all in the same human experience at the exact same time in the entire world. Like, that is really
Yes.
powerful to me.
Well, I'm a super sensitive person, empath, whatever you want to call it. So for me, it's been an especially hard year because I feel everything. I mean, I didn't think I'd recover from George Floyd. I couldn't even talk about it for a month without crying. You know, I never thought in my life I'd witness anything like that, and the kind of racism and the Capitol, and, you know, it's just all been really, really hard. I was never a politically inclined human until, you know, I don't know, I started to get more aware several years ago, like the Clinton era maybe. When I was young, it was like, yeah, I might, you know, what's one vote going to be? I don't know. And, you know, I hated political science in high school, and now it's kind of like taking over our whole world because everything's politicized. Everything's censored. Everything offends people.
Everything.
You have to be so careful, you know, and I hate walking on eggshells constantly. It's, you know, I was not a big Twitter girl, but I follow a few people and I find myself chiming in, and I'm like, I'm reading some of the stuff and just unbelievable. What it's like, usually whatever I say is kind of, I try to make it funny. So, you know, but it's just been like, the things that are happening with, I don't want to get into politics, but just the things that people believe, the misinformation that's out there that people believe makes me crazy. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Well, one
My
thing
mind blows.
One thing that Karen said that I think we can build on here is that we're all in the same human situation, but one of the things that the pandemic has made really clear, at least in this country, in the United States, is that the structures that we have in place have made the pandemic affect different groups of people very differently, right?
For sure.
And I think part of, you know, we're here to talk about womanhood in 2021, right? So I think part of what we're learning is that a sort of more feminine take or female point of view on addressing these inequalities in our society might benefit us coming out the other side of this pandemic. Like, what if we looked at the world like a mother looks at her family? What if we said it's no longer acceptable that some people can be healthy while others are not? Some people can be hungry while others are not. Like, what if we look at this world now, starting now, as a place for all of our children to receive what they need? And what do we need to change in our lives, in our immediate circles, and also in the world as a whole? What can we move towards to make that vision of protecting our children a reality?
I
think,
just, boy.
Cynthia, I know.
My daughter.
I can feel your energy. Yeah, please share.
My daughter is an historian, and I live with my daughter and my granddaughter. And this whole situation has brought so much into perspective. The whole teacher situation and the student situation, and having to listen to my granddaughter, my daughter tell her doctor, well, my mother's elderly. She's over 65. And I had to stop and I had to look at life as it truly was instead of how I was perceiving it. But just to sit here and watch everything that's on television, to watch the news constantly, to have to turn the news off because of the granddaughter's reaction, to listen to she and her friends talk, all of these different perspectives of politics and history, and then friends from overseas. It's like you truly get to see people as they really are when they just blurt anything out. I have some of the experiences I've had on Zoom with people that I thought were friends have been mind-boggling. Absolutely, just where my jaw has hit the ground. And I've had to say things like, do you even know history? Do you even know what's truly going on? And we've had so many historical changes happen. And just the fact that Kamala Harris is in office. I don't care what her background is, but just the fact that a woman is in office, to hear people from Europe talk about this like it's, oh, well, we've had, Angela Merkel, and we've had, the Queen, and to hear them just, blah, blah, and they'll say, what is wrong with you people? It's like, doesn't it make any sense that, it's your turn for your Mussolini, and it's your turn for, you haven't had Perón yet, so this has just been an extraordinarily mind-opening situation. And like I said, to live with an historian in the family who's got a whole different point of view of growing up in the 60s and the 70s and watching all this stuff, all the documentaries, and then it's just been wild to see all of the different points of view of what's really going on, and then to watch women's participation in this whole thing and what we've really given at just, I don't know, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God. I love
Thank you. I want to say something as well, that because a few of you have brought up the whole thing about politics. I'm not into politics, this and that. But when Julia and I met, we were part of a group for women who I believe have the power, because we're writing and directing and producing what goes out on film and television. And we are creating the stories now. And politically, the foundations have been built, for a couple hundred years or whatnot, that have systematically excluded women. And it first started, and I've always shared this, with religion, where if you only have 3 pronouns and you only have 2 genders, you don't have any women looking out for who they are and where we are in the whole, in the whole universe, basically.
Right.
And I know that some women were sharing they couldn't believe this and that people were on this track. But again, for those of us Latinas who are the blends of all people, we come from backgrounds that are European and Black and Asian, Indigenous, and I'm part Middle Eastern and also South Asian. So we come with our knowing and our birthright, really, with all these various DNA, I feel, strengths of intuition. First off, your biggest thing is we birth every being on the planet, and we also feed every being on the planet, but we're not in any positions of power. Okay, so political is power. And if it's only dominated by one gender and one race, one, I would say, people of no color, then we're in trouble, because 52% are women.
Right.
And we have lost our, over all continents, during the conquering of all our masses of people on civilization, we've lost, we all used to, even Europeans, we used to elevate, honor, respect, and value goddesses and gods. Now we don't. And so in that structure, we have nothing to hold on to or look into or see ourselves. And we are what? We are given the rules. We're giving the definitions. We're given the ways in which we have to live. And for something like a pandemic, look, our ancestors went through a whole hell of a lot more than what we're going through. And they were conquered by the millions. Okay. So I appreciate that everyone, it's all relative, we're all experiencing it because we've had very much luxury. We've had entitlements,
100%.
we've had, to certain degrees, based on even our own mothers, our own grandmothers, our own great grandmothers. But we don't have it today. And here we are, Julia and I are part of a group of women in the industry who are fighting over how we call ourselves.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And that's why, thank you, Julia, for doing this, because we were talking about womanhood, but a lot of now the deflection is, and I was also part of big groups, 100 Women Chosen, called Leadership America or Leadership California, where they choose 100 women, but only 4 would be diverse. I was the only single Latina, which in a state that had the majority of Latinas, but we're not at the table at all. And we're separating. I'd go to the mic because they'd always say, oh, women and women of color. And then I would say, why are we separating ourselves by color? Oh, because we were given that from the other people who are, dictating what the rules and the words and the visuals are. Okay. Then in this own group of Latinas, which I watched very sadly, even when I was part of the Gina Davis Institute, and I'd ask them, well, look, you're saying that if we can see us, we can be us. But I see in your own organization and institute, you don't have any diverse women hired. And on your board, you have like, four out of 30 diverse women. And, it's not collective in terms of representation. So how do we expect to be doing that work? Right. And then in this group that we were part of, which in film and television, it's a lot of LGBTQ. And then again, I learned that there's 20 other variants of our gender, right? And they don't want to be called women, okay, or woman. And even in the Gina Davis Institute, she goes, well, Cheryl, the greatest majority of people not served on film and television as characters are disabled. So everyone's always deflecting, right, to another group that's not represented. And I go, okay, well, give us a Latina or a Black woman in a wheelchair, and more of those characters, I'll go with it. And when Julia and I, which we got a lot of pushback and vitriolity, I think, like it was wasn't it bad, Julia? I mean, it was so vicious, it was so hurtful. They called us names, and they went after Julia's own representation, her actors, to say that she's disseminating some kind of, I don't know, information or whatnot. I mean, they were really, because they said, we're queer and we don't feel represented when you say woman and goddess and women. And then I said, well, you're in a group called Women in Motion Pictures. So again, everybody's fighting for their little piece of what represents them. But I would say, and Julia, we would say, first, let's acknowledge and elevate and value women as XX first, because if we're not doing that, okay, and we birth all the beings, we're not going to be the people who exclude our children in anything that we devise to create, or in science and philosophy and whatever, music, composing, and at war. Who's going to go to war and say, oh yeah, I want my son and daughter killed over a piece of land or whatever? I think women will sit there and go, well, wait a minute, we need to negotiate here, and there's other solutions to this problem, right? So that's what and I've said since I was little. And again, it came from that story of religion, when everybody was coming at me with their Bibles, and my boyfriend was Jewish, and everybody was like, oh, you have to believe in God. And I said, well, I don't profess to know what I don't know. At 14, I said this. Whatever asked me in my mind, the question was, where are women in these stories that I can, look up to and say, wow, because I love goddesses in Roman, Egyptian, and Greek. But where are we in our stories today? And then I find out I'm literally doing things to fight for Title IX, and I couldn't have a paper out because I was a girl. I couldn't be on the sports teams, all these things, right? But and that's why we're all here today in this circle that Julia has like amazingly gathered. Thank you, Julia. To take that energy and these knowings, inner knowings, I call them, to bring forth our DNA from our great grandmothers and our great great grandmothers and the whole matrilineal line, who never got to be and do what they already were born to be and do. So that's where I think we all are today.
I don't. I would love to be mindful.
I just sorry. Sorry, I know that everyone wants to speak to this, and
any of this. I'm sorry. My favorite film was Women in the Dunes, and they just threw a man in when one, died or escaped or whatever, and I've never forgotten that. That's my whole paradise, is being alone in Woman in the Dunes, and the village takes care of the woman that is shoveling the sand, whatever job you do, whatever field you're in. I've been in a lot of different fields, including high finance, which I mean really, really high finance, where I'm a number. And that's where I'm happy, because I like doing my own art, and I like functioning on my own dollar bill, and I like being alone. And every once in a while, some man will get thrown in. That's okay, because I need touch, and I like touch. Touch is very good. And as a ceramics major, you have to be kind of screened to even learn and develop within just that specific area within ceramic. And so I don't feel the same as a lot of people here. Sorry, I'm really happy with the whole thing of being a woman.
Catherine, I just I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to introduce themselves. And we kind of jumped into the discussion, but I want to make sure that Karen and Lori are also able to introduce themselves. And I know we can talk about women, all day. And I know Dawn also has raised hands. So I just want to make sure that everybody introduce themselves. Then I'm going to go to Dawn, and then we can open up the discussion. There is a lot that can be said. Just to speak on what Cheryl was pointing out, I just want to say that anytime that I have ever spoken about women or womanhood, it was never meant to be exclusive of anyone who identify themselves as a female or as a woman. It was never meant to be exclusive of any gender identity, and that's why I made it clear, that anyone who identifies themselves as a woman is welcome. And also at the same time, inclusive to all women, so that we feel that we are represented, that we do have a voice, and that we can embrace our womanhood. Because a lot of women, including myself, that is something that it's been like a long life journey for me, at least, to even be able to embrace my womanhood, to be able to embrace, having a voice. And talking about being a woman and being my full womanhood, like all of that is just like such a journey and such a process that I feel like that it does deserve a space. For those who do identify as women, it doesn't mean that there are people who don't, if they don't identify themselves as women, I respect that, but I think that women do need a space for them, for those who do identify as women. So that was the idea of creating a space where we can have these kinds of discussions about womanhood. Now I would like Karen House to introduce herself, and then Lori, and also do a group healing, because we do need a lot of healing for sure around all of these issues. I think we'll do the group healing last, because I do want to make sure that we are, having all the voices heard. So Karen, can you introduce yourself and tell us how you're feeling?
Sure. Yeah, I don't have much time because I have another thing that I have to jump off to at 5, but I was fascinating listening, and I would like to keep on with that discussion. So as I put in the chat, that I would be really grateful if we could all do this again. My name is Karen Howes. I'm a playwright. I'm a novelist. I'm an adjunct professor in theater. I teach writing. I teach, my favorite thing that I did 2 years ago, which I teach consistently, is a class on the history of women in film, television, and theater. And it was interesting because when I got that assignment to do that, to create that course, I knew nothing really about, I knew about film, I knew about television, I knew about theater, but I did not know how to connect women, the history of women through all of that. So to me, that was really fascinating. And I'm also the mother of 4 children who are grown. And I guess I think the other question you asked is what keeps me like alive, what keeps me enlivened is, well, I walk every day. And this year I've spent, like everybody else, inside, but I've used that time to read so many books on how I can be a better person. All this introspection stuff, which I wouldn't have done, if I was still in that rat race and still trying to figure out how to get here, how to get there. And these books just told me, wait, you just need to stop, which the world was telling me to do anyway. And you need to you can figure out who you are by not trying so hard to figure out who you are. Yeah. So I was working on that. Yes. And one of the things that I found really fascinating in my last couple of walks that I've been doing, and you guys were talking about hugging and how we're all missing that, and we want to touch and we want to connect, and we're all in this thing together. We're all experiencing this as, which we don't do usually. We've experienced grief, we experience joy, all that stuff at different times, but to experience the same thing all at one time is very unusual. And so when we're walking, right? And so I'm walking, and normally you might stop and talk to a stranger or pet their dog or share that, and you show respect and friendliness that way. And now what we do to show respect for the other person is cross the street, put on a mask. It's so weird. It's like the opposite, but at the same time, we're connecting. So, so I found that pretty fascinating, that we can still connect by being separate. And the other thing that enlivens me is exactly why I'm here today. It's because I've been thinking so much about Lori, and I got this email from her to join this. And so that and then, and the other thing, when I've been getting into astrology a lot with my daughter, because she's been really into that. So, and she told me that what's going to become, because I was really frustrated the other day, and she was telling me, well, this is the time, according to your transits and all that stuff, where you're supposed to meet new women and get friendships with new women. And then that was just yesterday too. So
that makes me happy.
I am happy.
Karen, I love your notes.
Oh, great. Lori, please. I have to have Lori introduce herself. She's such a big piece of this meeting, and I was saving the best for last. Not that everybody here is amazing, and Lori is one of my co-hosts and spiritual guides, and she has supported me so much through this podcast. We've been meeting every Saturday as well with a different theme, and I feel so happy that she's here to join and do a group healing. Lori, please do a group healing on all of these, because we need a lot of collective healing.
Yes. Let's do a quickie before Karen has to get off, before I even talk about myself at all. And there's a few things I prepared to say. Let me do a test. Okay. With your permission, I would like to get everyone here what did I call it? It's divine harmonics. Divine harmonics, whatever is most beneficial for you, it will be custom to you. Whatever's the best for you to help heal whatever has come up for you today and the past months or year, whatever's up for you emotionally, whatever can be tuned, strengthened. You get the idea. So with your permission, if not, it won't happen for you. You don't have to say it out loud, just you decide. Close your eyes. Know that you are surrounded by unconditional love. Anything that wants to release and dissolve is going to be absorbed by the unconditional love and transmuted into neutral creative energy. So you don't have to worry about anything hanging around, because you might see clouds, smoke, stuff like that. It's going to be sorted out by love. So just close your eyes, surrounded, safe, and secure in a bubble of unconditional love. And just going to take a moment. I'm going to just be silent. And the same for anyone else listening to this. With your permission, you'll also receive this. Divine harmony. Okay. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I think Karen had to leave, which is okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The sensitive types probably felt something. If not, it still works.
I did.
Drink water.
Oh.
Sometime today you might want to drink a little more water because it's like an energy massage, like a physical massage. You do water because it's releasing and stuff like that.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Thank you so much for the healing. I definitely feel like we needed it. This healing energy. Oh my God, I feel like a lot was released with that, and
beautiful.
There's a lot that we need to do. Just like constantly, like a lot of healing that we need to do this year, especially. So I think this is really powerful.
Yeah,
and if you want to, I want to give you the chance to introduce yourself before we're right at the time. So please do introduce yourself.
More power.
I'm sorry,
Laurie.
Just introduce myself. Lamson. As you might have guessed from the thing I just did, I've done a lot of study and practice of energy work. That was like my spiritual path, and I've created programs, podcast things, and I'm also a writer, content creator, and I infuse every project with heart and soul, is the way I see it. And I'm starting to see how these things are overlapping, like Catherine and Melanie took my soulful screenwriting class. It really evolved. Catherine, I wish you'd been at the second one because I feel like it's improved, where I'm starting to bring it together a little bit. I also had a program, Creative Freedom, that is about empowering artists with perspectives and exercises, but also with guided meditation and some healing that kind of combines too. So I guess what I'm really about is empowerment, empowering creativity. And yes, women, but also for everyone. Empowering creativity and empowerment in general, because I ask my higher self what would be the greatest thing, most valuable, impactful thing to share at this event. And one of them, two things came to me. One of them was to share the concept that love, wisdom, and power, all three are needed for a really impactful, joyful life. And we tend to be, all of us tend to be weak on one of them, if not two. And women tend to be weak on the power, the authentic empowerment. We tend to have our wisdom and love really developed. Just tends, I'm generalizing, obviously. So empowerment tends to be kind of the spot, and we've talked about some of the reasons, which leads me into my other topic. So my first thing, so that's, I think, how I got so drawn to empowerment. Is something I really needed. It took me a long time to find my voice. It took me a long time to be able to do this, to talk to a group of people. I couldn't have done it times by. And I just see the authentic personal empowerment, just like authentic personal inner peace is how it's going to happen in the world. And we're going to be called to take action, political action, or whatever it is in the world from finding that in ourselves first. Then that's how we're going to be guided with intuition to take effective action. So that leads me a little bit to my other topic, which was forgiveness. I was thinking women coming together. One of our greatest challenges actually is forgiveness. If you look at thousands of years of being second class or less, and as we've said, depending on your race, your religion, your this and that, even more oppressed. Doesn't mean that men haven't been oppressed. So I'm talking about women right now. A big part of our job, and women are good at this, is forgiveness. We have got to forgive thousands of years of unforgivable crimes against humanity, against ourselves, against our ancestors. This is the only way we're going to get present, looking forward. So whatever work we have to do, to me, that's one of the most important. Forgiveness to parents, forgiveness to everyone, and forgiveness to yourself for allowing, for whatever I did to allow, whatever has happened to me and all women and all humans over thousands of years. That's going to be one of the most empowering things, is finding the forgiveness. And that might mean trauma healing. That might mean journaling. That might mean crying and screaming for days. It's okay. I encourage you to do whatever that means to you. Forgiveness for yourself and others. And someone mentioned beginning compassion. So I want to read what it says in my tea bag. When you act with compassion, you'll never be wrong. Compassion for men and all that most men, including white men, have suffered under our political structure, thousands of years of mindset, is also quite painful. We may not see it. We might have felt, victimized, and we have every reason to feel that way, based on, like we said, crimes against humanity, women, children. But a lot of it has been also against men. The ones that aren't, the few in the power, also have had terrible struggles of what's expected of them, how jobs treat them just as a number and a worker, and cut off from their own souls and emotion. There's tremendous amount of pain that men also feel, and they're not allowed to express it. We're coming, hopefully, evolving as humans to where they will be. That's what's, to me, spiritual and personal growth has a lot to do with expanding enough to have compassion for everyone, to see people were doing best with very limited consciousness they might have had that allowed them to do things then and now. So growing in our compassion is part of the job.
I just wonder what's happened to empathy in the world.
Thank you.
Nobody
Exactly.
there's like no empathy anywhere.
Be the empathy that you see.
Oh, I'm the empathy. I have more than
Exactly.
enough empathy to like share with the entire world, but it's like I don't understand. I can't comprehend.
Empathy for yourself.
When people are broken inside, it's impossible to see often beyond their own pain. And I think that there is a lot of empathy, but it's compassion that actually transforms the empathy into something connective between all of us, because many people feel things. Many people are overwhelmed by their feelings. Like Melanie, you were sharing that experience that you have. Compassion is the connection to that we are wholly responsible for ourselves and each other. And so there's work to be done in healing ourselves and forgiving ourselves and putting all of those. There's no other, really. We like to create systems that say there are other. We've done a lot of work to create systems of other, but the reality is, the universal truth is that we are all each other.
Yeah.
My life would have been so different if I would have been able to find my voice and speak up for myself when my boss said I'd never be more than a secretary. And my other boss asked me if I needed help reading that book when I've been reading since I was 3 years old, and I just couldn't find a voice to speak up for myself. It took a long time because I wanted to be liked. God forbid I say something that's going to offend somebody, because I want to be liked. I don't want to be the person on the outside anymore that's picked last for the game, or whatever. Because I was always a little bit of a dance to the beat of my own drum girl, and I'm proud of that now. I embrace my weirdness. I don't care. I love being unique, but it took a long time to get here. And I love younger women like Demi Lovato, who have gone through some of the things that I have with food and body image. And the fact that they're not taking it anymore, they're not taking that crap, and they're speaking up for themselves, and they're healing themselves, and it's very inspiring for someone of my age who thinks, am I ever going to get over this? Ever?
It is inspiring.
I love everything that's being shared. I just want to be mindful that Dawn has raised her hand. I want to make sure that everybody gets heard.
That's all right. It seems to be, a free-flowing conversation, so I didn't want to get in the way of that. But going back to the idea of womanhood, and I love being a woman and defining ourselves as a woman. I think one of the things that that gets in the way of connection is that I was raised in the era of second wave feminism, when the idea of being a woman was expanding, right? We're saying, you know, I'm a woman and a woman can do all of these things. We're not just limited to this narrow definition of what a woman is. And the third wave, and perhaps even the fourth wave feminists now, they are taking a different road to the top of the mountain, right? So they're saying, this is, you know, if this is woman, then I am more than just that, right? Like I am woman, but I also have some man in me, and I also have some queerness in me that floats between those two things. And so they're taking the same journey, but they're just naming it a different thing. So I think we, as myself, especially when I create spaces for women's empowerment and women's dialogue and women's education and all that sort of thing, I struggle with that same idea of like, if I create a woman's space, am I excluding those that see themselves as woman plus, that see themselves as woman and more? And I don't know the answer for that, except to continue to be in dialogue with those who also are seeking the liberation and the care of women and non-binary, gender plus, gender fluid folks. As long as we stay in dialogue and say, you know, I use a different language, but my goal is the same. How can we work together to achieve this goal? Then, you know, not getting hung up on terminology, I think, is just keep moving forward, because the more we allow those technical things to divide us, then the more the patriarchy is winning. So I don't have an answer. You know, I agree with
that, but also I think it's a position as a white woman in a ranking system that benefits white people. I think terminology and name, it does matter. Like, I think definitions do matter. I think systems and the protection of those systems, which is what I think we're kind of going through. I feel like there's this like patriarchal temper tantrum going on right now, like holding on because the truth of the crime is so awful that the comeuppance is inevitable at some point. And so I feel like this is what's happened. This is my assessment, but I think, because the real truth is what you just said, is that if white people can't understand their participation in this and the damage and harm that they're like literally killing the planet by not seeing, by not dismantling, by not just bringing all this down, or changing or rewriting, or however we want to say that, I just, we have a bigger burden.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yes, 100%.
I mean, everything that's being said is definitely valid. And I think dialogue is very important for us to even understand and assimilate everything that's going on, because it is overwhelming. Like, everybody's going to like a process of being more and more overwhelmed with everything that we're going through. But I will say, like, what bothers me as a woman is the idea of shame around woman, like around womanhood. And that is something I've had to heal so much through my life. That is like, to not be able to call myself woman, or to associate shame with divine feminine or feminine, or all those things that I've had to work so hard through to be able to embrace. I mean, I've done, Women's Worth Academy, which is like a group of women trying to like embrace our worth, and not trying, but embracing our worth as women, and healing, like womb wisdom, and like to embrace your womb and like see that as sacred, and taking away the shame out of, the feminine. because there is so much in our society, that associates shame with everything that is related to women and female, and going from like our periods or giving birth or PMS, like shame and guilt, like all around, like everything that's like female oriented. That I think that is the part that it really bothers me. It's not so much about what we call ourselves, but it's about like being able to embrace being a woman without the shame, the same way. So it's not being, it's, and I do respect like any other gender identity. I think there is, that's why I was saying, like, I don't mean in any moment to be exclusive, and I respect however anyone identifies themselves, but just having the space to not have shame to be a woman, and not have shame associated with womanhood, and not have just one day a year where we get to be proud to be a woman and call ourselves women.
I feel encouraged that that it continues to get better. As a mom of adult daughters, they have a lot less shame about everything to do with their body, their vagina, their period, their sexuality, their self-pleasuring. All of this are conversations that are more fluid and open and handled without shame, which certainly was not my experience. I did not have those conversations with my mom. My mom,
neither did I.
Certainly never had.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I never had those with her. So I do see, this is what's powerful to me, is like this forum, Julia, like this forum to talk about, I remember in the 80s, like you couldn't say the word vagina without like giggling and blushing. Right. And now I'm like, freaking vagina, man. Like, like I birthed my babies. It's like doing everything, right? It's so powerful. How could I ever have shame for it? How could I ever have shame for it? So I'm encouraged by these changes, even though there's so much further to go. But I really appreciate this conversation and all of you. And Catherine, with your art book, about the sex of politics. What is it? What was it? Sexual
politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sexual politics.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just don't feel like you ladies, for some, most of you, I guess. I graduated with Georgia O'Keeffe on the stage. She's pretty powerful. And my teachers were all women over there in that school that I went to for so long. So I never had a lot of this feeling. I really, I just got raised by very strong women, and I just had women models that were extremely independent and strong people, including within my own family. I had concert pianists and AVPs of major banks and stuff like that. So yeah, I've had, I've been born into privilege, and I am lucky. And I have worked in projects, and I'm poor. I'm legally poor. But no, I just don't connect to I don't know, maybe I'm an alien or something. The male, female, woman, man thing, I think we have attributes that they don't, and they have some that we don't, and that we work well together. That's all I have to really offer and say.
I love that that's your experience. I think that's amazing, and listen, we don't live on the planet without men and women. There's no argument from me on that.
And women are not a monolith, women are not a monolith. We all have our own experiences and our own life paths. And, we have to respect all of them, because all of that makes rich experience, right?
Yeah. And I think Petra had her hand up as well. Petra, you still want to share something?
Maybe I didn't want to interrupt.
Lisa.
Thank you so much. It's very dense, rich, conversation, I do totally agree uh, with a lot of you and everything. I think, yes, it's absolutely true that men have certain attributes that we don't have. Also, the fact their ability of being less emotional than we are. It's a good counterpart, for example. um, and we do have a lot that they don't have. So that's exactly, I mean, in a perfect world, that is exactly the thing to embrace from each other. And I was talking to a dad. He's a friend of mine, but he's a father. And he was telling me about his daughter and this and that. And it was like, look, yes, all, he was like, I would have preferred having a male, than a girl. I see because of the difficulty of bring a woman into the world, particularly because he goes, look, you women always have to follow the male path. It definitely is a man world in the work, a job, the powers at stake is a man's world. And women are, have been trying to match the male, the malehood to be part of the circle or being in the circle or being accepted in the circle, taking on the male's attributes. But there is no man learning from the special attributes of women that we don't have, so there's just not even sort of like awareness of that, or very little awareness. There is some, but not enough to bring the balance, the scales in an equilibrium. And about what the other healer said, thank you, by the way, for the healing, was awesome. When she said something that men also have issues, that they also, are uh, raised, in the defense, not of men, well, in defense of men in particular, but more in the point of highlighting the dysfunction dysfunctional values of the society that we're in. Our society is sick, upholds all wrong values. There's a lot of shaming throughout, not just for women, but just for status. You have more money, you have less money, then you're part of this circle, you're part of that circle. Your voice is heard when you're a celebrity. If not, you can say something great, but who listens to you? Those are not balanced situations. But what the healer was saying, also about men being in situations where the emotions are not, they're grown up. They're also raised with being a man. Men don't cry. A friend of mine, I'm originally from Italy. An American friend of mine told me, like, yes, I went to Italy. He's a man, this guy. And he said, I went to Italy, and this guy's very gentle, very grounded, very gentle. He goes, I was surprised about how the man, he said, I was not, he felt, bottom line, he was not treated by the man really welcome, because he was more a gentle kind of guy. And he read that the society over there, which is very true, is, you gotta be a strong man. You gotta be, loud, and you gotta silence the other, this kind of like primitive, form of hierarchy and of grouping or giving value to those qualities more than others. And for what I wanted to say also in terms of bringing awareness, it's very complex to be a woman. It's very complex to be a human being in life. We're intelligent creatures. We live in this life. We're going to die, etc. But we also come, each and every one of us, men, women, um, we come with our own wounds. We come with our own level of growth or shifting, either consciousness or repair. And so, what I really believe that the communication and the consciousness needs attention as we all grow consciously with broader, bigger awareness, is that the idea that, for example, when you or I or you meet someone that has, of equal values, you have a similar opinion or about something similar likes, that automatically brings a likeness. You have a similar preference about, something, opinions or lifestyle or whatever that is. Automatically, that generates a likeness, a little bit of an easier way to bond. Oh, great, when you instead generally when you meet somebody that is different, because we're not familiar with their lifestyle, their whatever different, or more some when it's a difference of opinion, like it can be about certain philosophical thing, about a certain religion, about a certain diet, or about certain more thinking like religion, not religion, but different opinions that diverge.
it doesn't necessarily mean that having a difference of opinion creates rejection and belligerence. But our society and our group does not do that. Oh, a difference of opinion that she is that, like push away. No, I can learn so much with a different opinion. I can grow to be accepted in front of a different opinion. Okay, this works for you. This other works. Grow flowers, I think, analogy. Grow flowers, different flowers in the garden. We're all out of flower, but the cactus is different than the geranium. Geranium needs a lot of water, and they will say, drink a lot of water, stay in the sun. And you do that to a cactus, you can drown a cactus, it'll die. So go, no water, everybody, very little water. We all have a tendency to want to share what works for us, which is a sign of goodness and of goodwill and good intent. And our benevolence is expressed with what we found out something, figure out something that worked for us, we want to share it. And that's very good. But I think we're in a level of consciousness where now it's like, yes, keep doing that, but also understand that maybe you're meeting, the next flower in front of you. It's not a geranium, like maybe it's a cactus, and a lot of water may not work for that. And we're both are right, So finding and learning and opening our minds, we need a opinion, to have an open mind to accept and to learn from that, because we can still come together while in difference of opinions. It's good to have difference of opinions, because we're not all flowers in the same place, in the same spot in the garden. That's what I want to try in our consciousness expansion.
I love that. Yeah. I love what you said about the flowers, we're all flowers, but not all flowers are the same. There are all types of flowers. And I think it's the same thing with women, we all have different experiences. Even when we're talking about all women, we're all different. We all have different, women experiences. There was something that I heard when we're talking about, periods and maybe as a woman, the embodiment of your divine. We can talk about feminine energy, female energy and male energy. I feel like that is more accurate, because it's not even only about, being a woman, because you could have like female energy or male energy, like not in balance, and sometimes like my father has always been like the emotional one more than like, my mother sometimes. And that, and sometimes not. Sometimes he's like the voice of reason, and my mother will be like super emotional. So I feel like, even men and women, we both have like that male energy and female energy running through our bodies. And when we're imbalanced, we can actually honor that in one another. Like that's how I feel, like energetically speaking, But if we have like shame or guilt or, negative associations with that, it's not as easy, it's a lifelong struggle to be able to balance that feminine energy and male energy and masculine energy in yourself, and kind of like come from that place of balance and compassion and empathy. And the other thing I was going to say before we end, actually, I haven't introduced myself, so I will introduce myself. I am Julia. As you know by now, I'm a on-air personality, content creator, and public speaker and podcast host. So I'm very happy that everybody has joined here today. And I am originally from Brazil, so I am Latina. And even though I look white, a lot of people get confused. But there is such thing as white Latinas. We do exist. So I am Latina, immigrant from Brazil. So I'm representing the immigrants, Latinas, Brazilians, I've been living in the US for about 15 years now. So, it's a whole different discussion. I'm not going to get into that. But being from Brazil, we grew up Catholic, like 90% Catholic. So when we're talking about guilt and shame, I do have a lot of strong women in my family, as like Italian background in Brazil too, but Italian and British descent. But at the same time, there's a lot of Catholic guilt that I'm sure I have been healing, my whole life, that we don't speak, openly about sexuality. And because Mary was a virgin, and you should be a virgin as well until God descends and makes a baby, in you through your husband. So that was kind of like what I was, what I grew up with. It's kind of like the unspoken culture that surrounded me, even though it doesn't mean that everybody goes by that, but it's just like kind of like the unspoken culture around it. That it makes it not as easy to embrace yourself and embrace your womanhood and just embracing being a woman with everything that you can be, in your fullness. So I know I knew this was not going to be just 1 hour, because there's so many women here, and usually I do ask for like 90 minutes, but even with so many women, I didn't want to stop the conversation because there's so much to be said. And one of the things that I heard also, that is like a statistics, is that it takes 4 women for 1 woman to be heard. And we have here, 10 women, and we are being heard as a group. So I think especially when we're talking about being a woman, yes, there is power in numbers, so let's stick together so we can be heard. So these kinds of dialogues can keep happening. Maybe we can keep doing this like once a week, because as we saw today, just in our introductions, just like talking about being a woman, there is so many things that come up. So I do want to, put it out there as like one last question, just like, what does International Women's Day mean to you? What does womanhood mean to you? Something that hasn't been said yet. If you feel like you want to share before we end our meeting today, go for it.
Lisa, do you want to say anything? I know you've tried to contribute, so I would love to hear from you.
Lisa.
Thank you. I so appreciate everything that everybody has said. You've really taken my mind a lot further, all of you, with what you've said. And I want to come back to something that Lori said, Lori Lampson, who I'm a huge fan of. She talked about forgiveness, and that is probably one of the largest ingredients for the world to heal, is forgiveness. And alongside with forgiveness of everybody, but it's self-forgiveness and other forgiveness. But forgiveness can only come also with self-acceptance and other acceptance. We are way too judgmental about everything. First, unto our own self, our own bodies, our own aging, our own money, our own relationships. There's so much judgment that we have learned to process. And there's so much judgment, not only towards self against perfectionism, but then there's so much judgment about others. And I'm not talking about deal-breaking judgment. Somebody's a liar, or somebody is a thief, or somebody's really offensive. I'm talking about superficial bullshit judgment that is not important. And honestly, and if, even inside family units, inside spouses, if spouses and families and parents and children understood, we're animals first. We call ourselves humans, but we're a species of an animal. And we're so like, where do we come off being like trying to think that we're supposed to be perfect and other people are supposed to be perfect? It is judgment that kills. And it is judgment that stops us from forgiving and forgiving ourselves and other people. So I just want to say for us always to be reminded about our own judgments and to be more compassionate to other people and to say, so what? Somebody's different than me, and maybe they're doing it a way I wouldn't have done it. Maybe they're saying it a way I wouldn't have done it, but that doesn't make them wrong. I don't put them on my off list because they are not my vision of what I love and what I think is beautiful and what I think is successful or articulate. There's way too much judgment. And that's kind of one of my bandwagons is the unbelievableness of judgment and how it separates us from self and it separates us from others.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
Judgment separates us from self. Amen to that.
That's
Yes.
like a big observation of my
woman.
husband is how hard I am on myself all the time, and I've always been. I was an athlete. I was a perfectionist. I still am. And you know, with all these changes to my physical being, there are things I cannot do. You know, I can't jump on a trampoline. I bought a little trampoline during quarantine and realized, oh yeah, your spine has no shock absorber anymore. So it hurts after like a minute. You know, I can ride a bike, I can do my modified yoga. You know, I wanted to do teacher training at the yoga studio last year, and one owner was all for it. The guy, I was taking his level 2-3 class and modifying my whatever I need to modify, and he's like, "You're amazing." And the female owner of the gym, of the yoga studio, was like, she doesn't take people that have any kind of limitations like me. I did yoga for 20 years before I had to have my spine fused.
Doesn't matter.
I know anatomy from figure skating. I know probably more about anatomy than the average Joe from all my surgeries. You know, I say a word like psoas and people freak out. You know what the psoas is? People in the medical community. Yeah. You know, smarter than I look.
That's so limiting that she wouldn't take you. I'm going to say she's the limited one.
Yeah, I can't do handstands anymore. I can't stand on my head. Big fucking deal.
I haven't done a handstand since I was 6. So, like, you know.
I can still do them, and I'm 61.
I could if my thoracic wasn't fused because I can't get my shoulders together anymore. And it sucks. I love being upside down. It sucks.
Fortunately, I haven't had any major injuries or anything. But yeah, I just, when we had our goddess retreat at Isla Mujeres in Cancun, I took a picture on the beach in a handstand.
That's so cool.
And, yeah, because I mean, our bodies are our temples, but unfortunately, each one of us have been products, even myself, you know, of having food sources that are diminishing and kind of poisoning our insides. So how can we walk through the world with kind of these positive and more, you know, like, you know, glowing kind of thoughts? And, you know, like you said, if you're constantly in pain or your body's aching, that's its reaction. So and even in our community, when we have obesity and diabetes amongst our youth, because the only foods they can afford are just really bad things, you know, that's what we've been doing. You know, that's what we're cultivating our crop. That's what we're doing as.
Yeah, I mean, the food conversation is like a whole podcast. I mean,
because absolutely.
There's so much implication to that.
I think I destroyed my body by starving myself and diet pills and cocaine and purging and all the stuff I did, because I was actually reading up about that last night. Yeah, about anorexia and osteoporosis. And I had degenerative disc disease at 39.
Yeah. I weighed 107 as a ballerina at 5'8".
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I left.
Yeah. Luckily, I didn't do that, but we had a gymnast who came to our team at 130. And by her second or third year, she was at 90 pounds and she was put into the hospital. I didn't even know what anorexia was. And then we learned by seeing that she would have, her eyes would be dilated with blood, you know, bloodshot eyes, because, and she would tell us, oh, I'm separating my eyelashes with a straight pin. And then she'd come to gym the next week and the other one would be red, you know, and we would go, what are you doing? She goes, oh, I separated that one. So the first time you poked yourself, you didn't get it, but we didn't know by throwing up, you're actually, you know, doing your eyeballs. And then
rupturing your
would hit her thighs with her two pumps, her fists, you know, because her body was eating away at her muscle. So we were also, we meaning the society at large, was saying to our young women, and again, I think I put in the chat that we were also the women who were, you know, raped by our coaches, you know, but that was all something that deteriorates our internal DNA and our sense of spirit and who we are. Thus, how can we vibrate at a level that's going to be the messaging, that's going to be the change, that's going to be someone who, you know, really empowers from who we are naturally.
Well, that's where Lori's wisdom is true. This is the healing of it is.
It's energy.
trauma
our
is
energy.
I mean, trauma
Mhm.
is imprinted in our body, right? And
the
trauma
DNA.
is imprinted from 1,000 years ago in our body.
Mhm.
And we must heal it. Like we must heal it or embody it or connect it all. We can't be disconnected from it. We have to connect it so that we can then live in our power. I mean, I think when we talk about body, that's a sort of very relatable for everyone experience, right? You know, like I was 105 pounds in high school and felt like I was morbidly obese compared to my like 90-pound friends, right? Like it's so absurd. It's absurd, right? It's just an absurd concoction of someone else's ideal. But I think that like now, as I have stepped into my body more, I'm like, every breath is a miracle. Watching my dad have Parkinson's has informed this as well. Like just to write the letter A, all the things that have to go right in your body for you to write the letter A,
So
or
hard.
to say thank you, or to smile, or to do
So
anything
hard.
is a freaking, that's power. That is
Mhm.
our essential power, which is why it always goes back to the breath, right? And I think this is it's cool that we're acknowledging it. I think that there's so much power in like bringing it to surface. Like Cheryl, like all the value bombs you're putting in the chat and these, you know, these ways, but it is really powerful to have vocabulary and a space to talk about it and to say, listen, the premise of connection is everything. I think connection to self and each other. And that's, to me, that is the platform. So your pain, Cheryl, is my pain. Our ancestral pain is shared, even though I'm the perpetrator, I'm on the perp side, right? Like my roots are this perpetrator of this great violence against humanity. And I have to own that wholly and fully.
But look, Karen, even
both
before
suffer,
that,
you know, that's my point. Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
But I was trying to bring back to the very beginning, which is again, on every continent, it was women first. So women are carrying forth, whether you come from Europe or, you know, Asia or Africa or wherever, it was that systematic disintegration and, you know, domestication and submission and indoctrination. And, you know, it was constant, right?
Yeah.
So we harbor in that the fear, the, you know, and again, it took 10,000 years for man to make a dog, our pet dogs, to be domesticated, to be sweet and lick us and happy and look to us. Well, that's what they were trying to do with women.
Oh
is
yeah,
to
no,
be,
sure.
Yes,
to be
exactly.
their dominant over, because they feared, you know, and were angry at what we did have. And in essence, you know, if a woman who has, you know, she knows her intuition and she has all this power of knowing, because wouldn't women have to have that in order to proliferate and perpetuate the species? You know,
Mhm.
so they made it as witch. They made it as you're nothing, you're mine, you're property.
Yeah.
It's
Well, even, I mean,
enslavement.
yeah.
Women were the first enslaved, even if you're not of color, you know, you were the
Right.
first ones. I mean, from their perspective, I'm saying, but then it dominated within every conquered mass on the planet.
Right.
Yeah, the witch hunt was, you know, when we think back about the witch hunt, it was such a persecution of women's wisdom. And every woman that had wisdom and embraced their wisdom and their, you know, womanhood and their divine feminine and the earth wisdom and nature wisdom, her herbs, you know, using that as a part for cure and energy healing, you know, spiritual healing, all of these things that we're embracing now, it's coming from, you know, centuries ago and our ancestors. And the witch hunt, you know, I mean, my heart goes out to all the women that were persecuted then, because it was such an excuse to exterminate women in masses, you know, and it's so sad, like how many women we must have lost that could have been great thinkers and creatives and, you know, could have contributed even more than they did. And then, you know, after that also, I think that also ties into why women started hiding away, and that idea that if I'm going to be powerful, I need to, you know, hide. I need to hide my power. I cannot embrace my power. because if I do embrace my power, I will be judged. I will be
Yes.
persecuted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I will not be able to have a voice. I will be excluded. You know, so much of what we're living through right now, when we're healing right now, it comes from centuries ago, centuries of persecution against women that it doesn't even get talked about. You
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I wasn't trying to say I'm against men just because, and I noticed people jump right on, oh, you know, it's not men's fault. Men cry, men do this, men do that. I'm like, ladies, women, goddesses, until we come onto our own, the natural consequence of that will be we're not going to violate men. They're all afraid just now, as we see with Black Lives Matter or any other group, that they had already put into submission with their enslavement and their, you know, constant violence, that they were going to react like that. What do Black Lives Matters women and men say? They're saying, we just want our lives to be free to do and as everyone else. They weren't saying, oh, let's take them down and you know, eliminate them and destroy them. No, this is the fear of the people who put it into action in the first place. And it was those who were, this is my philosophy, who were in the minority, who didn't understand that they didn't truly have the power, okay, whatever that meant to them. You know, the blinders are on, and they had to create a construct that would, you know, make the others, who were the majority and millions of people, you know, you can't come to Mexico or Brazil or whatever with 2,000 people and expect to take down millions. You have to do constructs. First, it's with beliefs, then it's with the politics and the rules. Then you've got your people bowing down to you. And only you, with just simple little words. He, his, him, father, son, king. That's it. Simple, you know?
And
so
another thing that
we have to put ourselves back into this whole, you know, creation stories or whatever we have to do. We have to put ourselves back in, because we will naturally heal, protect, birth, you know, love, care, nurture, feed from our bodies. These are all like the elements that actually help all beings be valued and loved and respected on this planet. Those are all the qualities. Those are it.
And I want to bring up one more point and actually have a sign for it. That is finances. That's another way that we have been oppressed, because men have most of the power, wealth, and, you know, finances in the world. Like, you know, I think there's like 4% of women are CEOs. Like, how many, you know, bank owners do you know are women, you know? And this is like the sign that I have for us. I don't know if you can read it or if it's like backwards, but it says, nothing bad happens when women have more money or make more money. Nothing bad happens when women have more money.
True. Well, and I mean, there's so many, that's a whole, I feel like that's another, write that down. That's another podcast conversation.
Yeah.
Women have been working for centuries to do all kinds of shit. Like, so, you know, as a person who's been in a corporate world and a stay-at-home mom, I mean, you know, I've done the math, and, you know, my husband got some good labor out of me raising those babies. You know what I mean? I'm happy I got to. It was a privilege, but I'm throwing him under the bus. It's okay. He can
And I want
it's hard to be negated for what you've done. It's very hard to be negated for something that takes a lot of power and energy and effort. And you have your own corporate life at home. Okay. I mean, let's face it.
But
you
but
know,
also I wanted to say, someone had brought up about not having money. We're not financially this or that. Perhaps it's not really in our DNA. I mean, that's another construct that was defined by males, who actually, women would use agriculture and the needs of the families and the people to do the exchange of what that. So they made paper money with their faces on it. They made it the biggest thing, and that's what they're all powered over. And I just want to say, even though I have no money, I'd been homeless for like 7 years, I still created, 10 events so that women, high school, college, and college grads and women could see themselves on platforms. I've still made educational media when they weren't paying for those properties to educate women on negotiation, financial literacy, advocacy, public speaking, authentic voice, because they would say, they wouldn't even give us money to do it. And when they would
Yeah.
give us the little money, I didn't turn it down, because with that little money, I could still make it look like $1 million and make sure that we got it to the Department of Labor and we got it to Georgetown so that we could get 52 homes built for our migrant farm working families in the Coachella Valley. Why? Because nobody's giving it to them and nobody cares. But when they saw themselves, their guilt and shame on Time Warner, which we were cited by Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama, you know, they finally built 52 homes for, by the way, 2,000 to 6,000 workers. That's as far as their guilt and shame could go, through the church in Coachella Valley. Okay. So I'm just saying, to me, it's not like my passion and my love, and I can do it, and I'll get people to donate, or we'll get stuff made by, you know, getting it done. It wasn't about how much money I made or how much they were going to pay us. It had to be done. That message had to be done, you know? So again, and that's me pitching it to Dove's Campaign for Real Beauty when they weren't doing diverse women programs. Okay. But we did the first 16-week online series to educate women on all these things, right? But they weren't going to put them in front of the camera, you know, at the time. Then they came up with their different strategies, you know, of all women embodied.
My self-esteem becomes so entangled in whether I have money or not, which has been really hard the last 7 or 8 years, because money has been so non-existent for a lot of that time, you know, and I was just bummed out all the time. I felt like crap about myself. Every little thing was magnified 1,000%. 1 pound. Oh, I wanted to get a job at Weight Watchers because I was doing the program for a long time, and I overslept and I missed my, you know, final meeting, and the woman would never speak to me again because I didn't show up. And that destroyed me, and it just destroyed my whole even love for going to Weight Watchers. I continued to go, but I'd stopped losing weight, ironically. I wasn't,
Well,
you
it's
know.
like, that's just a capitalist framework, right?
Yeah.
That, like, just decide on that. I mean,
But all I wanted to do was help people lose weight. Weight's been such a big issue for me my whole life. And, you know, I finally found something. I mean, I've done that program several times and it's always worked for me. And, you know, obviously I was clearly like in a way oversensitive period after my body had been cut open like 8 times. And I absorb energy so much that if I don't put a white bubble around me right before I go into surgery, how many dead people were in that operating room that went into my soul? I know that sounds crazy, but I've been told that.
Melanie,
you know?
Melanie.
I've never had that thought in my entire life. Yeah, I love that you have, like, that's something that really went into your head, Melanie. Like, really? Yeah. I really am, I'm intrigued by everyone's, like, the sort of, like, another topic is like spiritual influencers, because when I was always really like fascinated by religion, and this as a kid, I was just curious. But one thing that always rubbed me, I guess is my inner like goddess or feminist, like early, whenever they were like the whole Adam's rib and women, you know, this just has rubbed me wrong since like the very first time I heard it when I was 4, whatever. I was like, I remember asking my dad, like, and he's a complete atheist, so he had nothing to contribute, but I was like, I just don't, like, they took the rib. First of all, it was like violent. Like they took the rib out of the man, and then like that. But don't we have ribs? Like it's just none of it made sense. So,
like who thought of that?
Like
if you understand the power of storytelling,
yes,
it's very.
No, sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, but watch when Obama becomes president.
I believe in Peter Rabbit a lot more than I do than in Adam's rib. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Obama becomes president because there were many television shows that started featuring Black men as presidents, okay, in movies, okay? So that also internally, where you say, no, words don't matter, or these little pronouns, or even visions of somebody. Look, I pitched a project in 1985 about a Latina woman, and they said, there are no Latina presidents. And I said, well, it's a fiction. It's not a documentary, right? But this woman from England would not have it, you know, and we can't do a Black project because we haven't cast since Roots. Where are we going to get these Black people, you know, actors? So again, these are minds that are, you know, diminished or narrow, blinders on, right? And I wanted to say to Melanie, look, just by you being that athlete, and I would tell my sister athletes, okay, first of all, we're like power beyond power because we were student athletes, right? Or you were like, you were like that athlete. And to make your body do what it needed to do for your sport, that's another whole level of being who you are, Melanie. So in re-energizing you, again, get out into that nature. And I know the body's starting to fail, but it's all here inside you.
Yeah.
Just like when you made yourself do those axles and the triple flips and this, you were doing stuff that your body had never understood what to do, but you made it happen because you had the power within that mental capacity.
And we did it before all the training methods were
Exactly.
available, like harnesses
and we didn't even have
and all that
videos. Like
stuff.
I didn't have a video to see. I could see
Yeah.
other gymnasts do a backflip on a beam, but I'm like, okay, I'm telling my body on a 4-inch beam, 4 feet in the air, I'm going to do flip, okay, and land back on it. So I take that to filmmaking, meaning you don't see it necessarily. You kind of imagine it, right? That, okay, I need to land on the outer side of the blade. I need to do the triple, flip or whatever it is and come down flat, so you're programming it. Okay. So now you need to take that energy you have already innately, Melanie, that you took how many years to develop and put it back into bringing your body back to healing to the place it wants. And those pounds are going to flow off when you find something else you love to do, not necessarily athletic. It can be something like you're going out to writing, or, you're doing something like singing, or you're doing something that's not concentrated on, oh my gosh, what am I doing to my body? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you're almost synergizing it to yourself, because that's how much power you have, Melanie.
I love to drum. I love music.
There you go. I'm saying go.
I miss my drum circles.
Yes, you have to get that energy out, and then you'll just watch it just fall, because it's not so constricted about your worry, about your pain. And again, utilizing some of these great women that work with pain, and again, it could be, we don't know, but those DNA that you have from being a little girl and what happened and what you're carrying,
I think your healing physically also depends on your mindset. I know a lot of spinal fusion people that are happy to sit in a recliner and watch TV all day. That's not me.
That's what I was
I'm always going to be active.
I said it was in here, Marlene.
Yeah. It's true.
Ladies, thank you so much for this conversation. We're getting sorry, I don't want to cut you off. This is amazing.
I love you.
Like, this is beautiful. I love this energy.
And
I love the voices.
For everyone at home, y'all missed a whole other conversation in the chat because it was blowing up this whole time.
Yeah. And I love all of this. I think this is, I know this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, because I can feel like we have 10 very powerful voices right here. And we need to do this more often. Oh my God, Karen, I love your
Karen. I said, you gotta put us in the language.
I definitely want to do this again.
Yeah.
But I put Goddess Remembered, if all you goddesses want to check it out. And it is about, right, Dawn, about the women who
fantastic
were archaeologists and could go to those places where the men were saying these are all gods, blah, blah, blah. But it turns out we were the women who had their palm prints on the cave. We were the women that did all the construction foundation building. It was like insane, but you have to see it so that the story comes back to you and you can feel proud of who you were as that woman who did all those things down the line.
Yes, absolutely. Highly recommended.
Yes. Thank you, Julie.
And I want to say, thank you everyone for hanging in there, with us. We've been here for like a couple hours and it feels like 15 minutes. Flew by. We could definitely do it like this again. We could definitely keep going for another, I think, day, because there's so much to be said. There we have to do like a women's retreat, like weekend retreat, and where we can talk about all of this honestly, because it needs to be said.
That would be great.
And there's so many issues and topics that we talked about, that each and every topic could be their own podcast, their own day of conversation.
I got at least 10 more I didn't even get to, so
definitely.
Okay,
and oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Julia. Oh, I just wanted to say real quick that I'm having an event this next Wednesday. I hope well, hopefully we're not gonna, maybe we can postpone it, but from 4 to 6, and it's where a panel of women talk about their mothers, their selves, and their grandmothers, and they do art, poetry, music, dancing, singing. So we have, this is the panel I put together so that women could also, we have one that does it in Hispanic Heritage Month that talks about women in the businesses of various places in the industry. But this one during International Women's Day and Women's Herstory Month is all about the talents, because I wanted to reach also our youth, and maybe each one of you, through something like art and poetry and music, because it's aesthetic, it's more, tactile, and maybe that will reflect something in you to bring up, something that you've been hiding or you didn't realize that you had, So
I mean, do I have any skills beyond this as an artist? Just important question. This is my skill set as an artist. Am I
okay, so just email me and I'll send you the link.
Love it.
I would love you all to be there. And I know we have it next Wednesday from 4 to 6, but if we could have everyone do a field trip and come on over to see these women, they're amazing. We do it differently each time, but they also perform and they also do monologues and poetry and singing.
Oh, wow.
I think
So
that's
that'll be great. Yeah.
Just like to say,
send the invite.
I'm hearing a lot from performing people, and I came here from New York so that I could bury myself in performance, because I'm a visual artist. And visual art is really different. It's different from the three arts: literature, performance, and visual. And straight up visual is an isolator. They don't want to be performers. They want to be alone. They want to be quiet. They don't want to be public. And that's different. And I've enjoyed meeting all of you. I want to thank you all. And I have to sign off now. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Catherine. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. So this Feed Your Soul Mixtape podcast, thank you so much. This is just the first of many. I feel like we're gonna have to do a series of conversations with women, about women, for women. So this is just the beginning to have our voice heard. Happy International Women's Day, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. Hope you can join us next time as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're beautiful.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Keep
you.
rising, keep rising, keep rising.
Woo, yeah.
Rising, rise above, rise above.
Thank you.
Thank you, Goddess Julia. Ciao, ciao.
Rise
Thank
above.
you.
Yes.
Rise up, girl. Rise it
Keep
up.
sharing.
Yes. Okay.
Good night, ladies.
Good night.
Uplift,
Bye.
uplift.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. That took a long time. My God, that was 2 hours more. But it was good. How are you doing? Oh man.
I'm having a pretty good day.
How are you? I love. Oh. I'm just gonna, I don't want to, but call mom to say hi. I don't want to, but because I want to party, I want to relax. Oh. Oh.